Barakatham, Yahweh Shamar, Alatham, Bahashim Yahushai, a salute to the brothers and to the sisters. Today's the Lashawan Qadash class held every Friday in Southern California. We're down here in San Bernardino. If you want to make it in person, we have classes from Tuesday through Friday. The address is 246 East Highland Avenue, San Bernardino, 92404. This is where we're located in Southern California. Make sure that you like the class. Make sure that you share the class and that you subscribe to our channel, Hollywood Israelites on YouTube, and to our channel on YouTube, IHUBK West Coast. All right. So this is the Lashawan Qadash class. Lashawan Qadash means holy tongue. You understand? Holy tongue. Qadash means holy. Lashawan means tongue. Lashawan Qadash, holy tongue class. All right. The language that we teach here is a language of the Israelites in the Bible, who we teach are the so-called Black, Latinos, and American Indians. And of course, we prove that. All right. But this class is specifically towards our language, which is a part of our culture. So I want to point out, every nation has their culture, the way they dress, the way they speak, the foods they eat, uh, rules that they live by. Well, we are no different as so-called Latinos, Black people, First Nation people. We have our own culture, but our own culture is in the Bible. But the thing is, we have been taught religion, and that has nothing to do with the Bible. So we refuse the Bible because the ones who taught us the Bible lied to us about it, and in return, we do not trust the Bible anymore of the the because of the behavior of the religious organizations that have taught us the Bible. You understand? When in reality, the Bible is our culture. The truth in the Bible is our culture. Wearing fringes, clothes like this is our culture right here. Speaking ancient Hebrew, that's our culture. You understand? Following the laws and the commandments in the Bible, the rules that God gave us to live by, that's our culture. Eating certain foods, that's our culture. And it's all in the Bible. All right. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the class today. Today, we're going to go over Hebrew possessive adjectives. All right. We're going to go over Hebrew possessive adjectives. Make sure you guys can see it. The light, the glare of the light is in the way, but what it says is Hebrew possessive adjectives. That's what it says up there, right? If anybody has any questions, let me see how I look at the chat. If anybody has any questions, type them in the chat. All right, shalom to you, sister. What's your name, Jessica? All right, shalom, Bakersfield. I recognize you. You came here a couple times. Said shalom, shalom. All right. So now we're gonna go ahead and get into the class. All right. So the first possessive adjective that we have is the Yah. All right, you got the Yah. All right. Now the Yah is a character. All right. A character is like a letter in the English alphabet, right? So you have A, B, C in the English alphabet. Now in the ancient Hebrew, in our language, each so-called letter is actually a character. You understand? We don't call them letters, we call them characters. Why? Because they derive from actual objects. You understand? And that's for another class. But our characters come from actual objects, like a hand. They were inspired by objects, and that's how we came up with the language. All right. So The ya would be this character, right? That's the ya, all right? And it's pronounced ya. So that's the first possessive adjective we're going to go into, all right? So we're going to give an example of it. So you have, for an example, would be you can use the word bread, right? Bread is lakam. Let me make sure you guys can see it. So bread in ancient Hebrew is lakam, right? That's how you say bread, right? Now, if I want to make this possessive, if I want to say my bread, then I would put the ya at the end. So it goes from lakam to lakam ya, my bread. You understand? So that's how the language works in ancient Hebrew, all right? In English, the my would be in the front. It would be my bread. But in this language, it changes. Just like in any other language, the structure of it is different. And so is our language different from other languages and the structure of it. All right. So that's my bread. So of course, Yah means mine. It would mean mine in English. If you were to translate it into English, it would be mine. Lakam Yah, my bread. All right, and that would look like this. Right. So you got the la, the ka, the ma, and the ya. These are all characters. All right. Even though they're all together, that's another thing that's different in the ancient Hebrew. There isn't in English, the my would be separated from the word bread. But in our language, in our culture, they're together. There's no space between bread and my. It looks like one word, but it's not one word. All right. So if you were to translate it into the ancient Hebrew text, it would look like this. So you have the la. So that character it looks like it's basically a backwards L. All right. But it derives from an actual object. So it doesn't come from the L, the English letter. It comes from an object that was made into a character in our language. Okay. So you have the la, then you have the ka. The ka character looks like a ladder. All right. It looks like a ladder, the ka. Then you have the ma. All right, which in the word lakam, it's only the N, because the sound of these two characters connect. The ka and the ma connect in the word lakam. All right, and I'll go over that right now to help you understand that clearly. So you have lakam. So the third character is the ma. Right? That's the third character. So now you want to add the symbols in the bottom of the word so that way you'll know how to pronounce this word, how to read it. Through experience, you won't need it anymore because you would know, well, that says lakam. But starting off, you need the characters in the bottom to help you pronounce the word. Okay? So this is lakam. So when the character is pronounced by itself fully, you would put this symbol at the bottom, like a frown, right? So that's a la. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the ka and the ma are connected. So when they're connected, when they're combined, meaning when the sound of each character is combined, you put this connector right here. So instead of it being la, ka, ma, now it's la, kam. And that's why it only shows an M when I spell it out in English. Okay. So whenever you're reading the ancient Hebrew, you wanna recognize these characters because that's going to indicate what word you're saying. If I say lakama, that doesn't mean bread. That means something else. So lakam means bread, and of course you add the possessive adjective, which is yah, and that's how it would look in the ancient Hebrew. Lakam yah, my bread. All right. So the main point here is the possessive adjective that we're going over, which is my. My. All right. And in ancient Hebrew, it's pronounced yah. And in ancient Hebrew, the character looks like this. Looks like a Z, right? Something like that, right? So now with that, the next possessive adjective is the ka. Got the ka. And listen, there's tons of artifacts that you can find on the internet where this language, our language, is found on stones. You can go and look up the Los Luna stones found in New Mexico. It's a big stone found in the desert with the Ten Commandments, with Assyrian Hebrew and with ancient Hebrew combined. You know, they try to say that it's fake, but of course, anything that doesn't fit the history of American history, they're going to say it's fake. Because if they say that it's real, then that means that the so-called theories that have been put out in books would be true, which is that that the Israelites left the eastern parts, meaning left Assyria and came to a land where no man dwelt, which according to scholars, the only land at that time where no man dwelt known was America. So then that would mean what? If they said, well, the Los Luna Stones is real, then that means what? That would add to that statement that was made years ago that the Israelites came to the Americas. And if the Israelites came to the Americas, then that means that the natives, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, are the Israelites. You understand? But they don't want to connect that because they don't want that history to come out. You understand? They don't want it to be true when they know it's true. The people running the earth, the people who know what's going on, who know the truth about Christ, that he exists, they know it. But of course, they have power in this earth and they are stopping it from coming out. But of course, it will come out. And it is coming out. The truth is coming out to wake up the 12 lost tribes of Israel, so-called blacks, Latinos, and American Indians. So you can go look up that stone. There's also other stones. You have the Back Creek stone that also has ancient Hebrew on it. You understand? So anyway, let's keep moving along with the topic. So the next possessive adjective is ka. Right, you got ka, which is you or your. So that's a possessive adjective right there. So we're gonna keep using the word bread as the example, and we're just gonna change the possessive adjective at the end. All right, so we have lakam. Now the possessive adjective always goes at the end, right? So you have lakam ka. So you add the ka, that would be your bread, right? That would be your bread. Of course, it also means you, but it wouldn't make sense if I said you bread. So the only possessive adjective we can place here is your. Lakam ka, your bread. All right? And in the ancient course, got the la, la come, ka, right? La come ka, your bread. So now the next one is we got the wa. Wa. So this next possessive adjective is the character wa. And that looks like this. Kind of looks like a field goal post. You understand? But of course, in another class, I'll go ahead and bring out where each character was inspired by, and then we can go into the precepts, into Adam, and so forth, going deeper into how these characters were brought about into existence, changed into a language. All right. So this is the wa. All right. So if I say the come wa, the come wa, I'm saying his bread. That's what I'm saying. Why? Because the wa stands for his, he, and it. So in this case, we would use his bread, lakum ka, salakia, lakum wa, his bread, right? The next one, we got the ha. Now, the ha is referring to a female, all right? It means her. And the ha is this character here. That the ha, like it looks like a backward F. But come ha. Which means her. Her bread, lakamha, her bread. Akha, her brother. In ancient Hebrew, brother is ak, brother. Or sister is akwaf, akwafha, her sister. Akha, her brother. You understand? All right. Now, of course, you can go and read. If you have the Tanakh, you can go and skim through the Tanakh, and you'll be able to recognize the possessive adjectives being used that's being shown in class right now. You'll see the ha, you'll see the ka, the ya. You understand? But of course, it'll be in Assyrian, but it'll be the same structure. The only thing is they'll be using Assyrian characters, right? But you're gonna see all these possessive adjectives being brought out here, in class. So now the next one is nawa, which means are, us, or we. Right? That's what nawa means. And the nawa is actually two characters. So it would be the na and the wa. And they're pronounced individually. So you would put the character that signifies that they're pronounced individually. Nawa, Lakam Nawa, our bread, right? Our bread, Lakam Nawa, our bread. The next one is come, Kam. Kam. So that's the ka and the ma character combined. You got the ka and the ma combined, so the sound transforms into come. All right. So you got the ka and the ma, which means your for masculine plural. So this is referring to men. All right. La come, la come, la come. Your bread. So it's referring to men, right? This bread belongs to them, to these brothers. La come. All right, Leviticus 26, and give me 1 second here. I want to see if I can pull this out. 26. Trying to see if I can get this verse for you guys to show you a verse in the Bible that actually uses the word, actually uses this word and adjective, so you can see it for yourself. Let me see here. 1 second. 1 second. No sweat. I can't pull it up right now, but that's fine. All right. So the next adjective is we have kun. Kan. So that's the ka and the na. Ka and the na combined. So it's kun. Kun also means yes or that you agree. Con, right? It can also mean that, and it's also a possessive adjective. So con is the same thing as come, which is your, except it's changed to female plural. Female plural. Now you're talking about a group of sisters. This bread belongs to sisters. So become con. All right. The next one is ma. That's the next possessive adjective. We have this one and another one, and then we'll move on with the next, with the next, with the next things lined up for class. So we have ma, which is the character ma. It would look like that. Means their bread. And it's referring to men. Right? So it's masculine plural. Their bread. Lakama. Lakama. You know what's interesting? The ancient Hebrew actually sounds similar to native tongue. It sounds very similar to the language that the Native Americans speak. You understand? And that's not a coincidence. All right? That is not a coincidence. That's because the language that the natives speak comes from ancient Hebrew. It comes from this language. So lakama means their bread. I'll actually read a bit out of a book that brings up how the language of a Cherokee man, of a Cherokee Indian, forgive me if I'm pronouncing the tribe wrong, or those specific natives wrong, the name of those natives wrong, but it's Cherokee Indian man who was studying the culture of the Native Americans in North America, and he started to study the ancient Hebrew, and he came to find out that the language that he spoke, that was given to him by his ancestors, more than 50 words from his language was straight Hebrew. So he was convinced that the language that he got was from Hebrew ancestors, Israelite ancestors. That's the conclusion he came to. All right, and I'll bring that out towards the end of class, maybe after this. But I will definitely bring it out, and I'll give you guys the name of the book also. All right. So that's ma. Their, meaning masculine. Their, masculine plural. Lakama, their bread. The last one is na, which is the same thing but for females, referring to females. Na. Lakamna. Their bread, referring to sisters. Lakamna. That sounds Native American. Lakamna. Do you understand? They just sound so similar to it. Okay, so those are the possessive adjectives that we're bringing out today. And I'm gonna go ahead and read you guys that part of the book that I mentioned. All right, so it's from this book. Also, Captain Kataza, he brought it out in his lecture. If you haven't heard about the lecture, I think he did it about a year ago. You can go on YouTube and search 12 Tribes lecture on Cross the Line Radio. It's on his channel. It's for free, and he's breaking down the 12 Tribes chart with proof to show that so-called blacks, Latinos, and American Indians are the Israelites. Of course, we've known this. We believe it. We don't have any doubt in our minds that that's the case because of facts and the Bible and history. But it's for our brothers and sisters in the world who, who might not have time to study, might not have time to take the time to study and to look into it for themselves. All right, and it's also to cut those who are against the 12 tribes chart, who say that it's false. So anyway, moving forward, the book that I'm referring to is this book right here. And Captain Qadash brings some of this information in the book in his lecture. Okay. The 10 Tribes of Israel, or the True History of the North American Indians, showing that they are the descendants of these 10 tribes, by Timothy R. Jenkins. This book was originally published in 1883. Okay, Timothy R. Jenkins was born 1821. So, let me go ahead and read that. So this is the preface. It says, many years ago, the attention of the compiler of the following pages was first called to the subject by hearing a lecture delivered by a highly educated Cherokee Indian on the manners and customs of the various Indian tribes of North America. During the course of his remarks, he stated that when he came to study the Hebrew language, he was astonished to find so much of his own language that was pure Hebrew. And after enumerating, meaning after numbering, the various words of his own language that were Hebrew, he found them to exceed 50. So more than 50 words of his own language was actually Hebrew. And this is a quote from him. And said he, we were taught this by our ancestors, and they received it from their Hebrew ancestors, the 10 tribes. So this is a Cherokee Indian saying this. And I'll keep reading the rest. It says, and furthermore, he stated that he was as firmly convinced that the Indian tribes of North America were descendants of the 10 tribes of Israel as he was of any other fact. This statement induced us to examine history on this question. Excuse me. And we have found many facts corroborating the testimony of the red man of the forest. Though differing from some other writers on this subject, we have the testimony of a number of the most eminent men of America to sustain our position. All right, so that last statement was also heavy because this book carries statements from eminent men that holds the fact or the statement that the Native Americans do come from these 10 tribes. And since I read that, I'm going to go ahead and bring out one eminent man in this book that's brought out, whose name is what's this man's name? William Penn, right? If you don't know about William Penn, you can look him up on Google. He is the one who owned Pennsylvania, which is in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, right? He was part of the Committee of Free Society of Traders, also known as Quakers, which was like a Christian group. I believe it's still around today, but he was a part of that group. And he existed. He's part of history. He's a big part of American history. You can look him up. And this is actually from a book that you can still find today. This book still exists, and it's bringing out a letter that he wrote to a friend referring to the Native Americans. So I'll go ahead and read it. The following is from J.J. Mombert's History of Lancaster County. So this is a book called J.J. Mombert's History of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, page 68. You can go look this book up. It's an actual book. being an extract from a letter written by William Penn to the Committee of Free Society of Traders. So it's being written to this group that he was a part of, this Christian group. And this letter was going to London, England, 1683. He states of the origin of the North American Indian. Now, why? Because Pennsylvania is in North America. So he was among North American Indians. All right. And then this is his quote: I am ready to believe them of the Jewish race. I mean, of the stock of the 10 tribes, and that for the following reasons. I think that's all I need to read, but I'll go ahead and read it like one more sentence. First, they were to go to a land not planted or known. Why is he saying that? Because in the book, in the Apocrypha, it talks about how the 10 tribes fled captivity in Assyria to a land not planted or known. But in the Bible, it's referred to a land where no man dwelt. Which, to be sure, Asia and Africa were. Meaning Asia and Africa was already inhabited. And that was known at that time. If not Europe, Europe was also inhabited. So what's left? America. And he that intended that extraordinary judgment upon them might make the passage not uneasy to them, and it is not impossible in itself. And it keeps going. But the thing I want to bring out is that William Penn is an eminent person, character in history who actually existed. This book that they're bringing out actually existed. So this is a fact. You understand? This is an actual fact that William Penn said this. And William Penn, of course, would not say, there's no reason why he would just say this to make it up, to start controversy. You understand? This is a letter that he wrote to a friend saying what he believes, and that's that the North American Indians are from the 10 tribes. And there's obviously, in this whole book, there's tons and tons of more information like this. And in other books, there's tons of other books that solidifies what we teach. You understand? Especially the Bible. So anyway, those are the possessive adjectives. This is a good book to get also. And with that, we're going to move on. Okay? So with that, we're going to go over the Hebrew alphabet. Bring out the alphabet. One second. I might not bring out the alphabet. I don't think brothers need the alphabet. If you need the alphabet, let me know. Anybody watching online, if you want the Hebrew alphabet, I'll go over it. But I think brothers and sisters already know that. They already know that, all right? One second. All right, I'll just go over the alphabet. All right. So the alphabet, quickly, I'll just write it on the board. All right, so that's the ancient Hebrew alphabet. Now, of course, this is what you see on artifacts that are found all across America, North America. right? And I'll go ahead and show you some photos. Let me see, Bat Creek Stone. Let me show you guys the Bat Creek Stone. So the Bat Creek Stone was actually found in Tennessee. That's where it was found. All right. So you got to ask yourself, how did this stone with ancient Hebrew get to Tennessee if the Israelites who spoke Hebrew live in the East? You understand? And that's why they say that these stones are fake. Because if they say that they're real, then that means what? That means that the Israelites at some point came to the Americas. And then that, of course, would match up with the Native Americans having similar culture to the Israelites. That would match up to all the documents of the Spaniards who came to the Americas and recognized that we actually kept the same culture as the Israelites. So it would all match up, and then people would know, well, these people here in America are actually God's people, God's nation, the people in the Bible. And of course, they don't want that. You understand? They do not want that at all. So here's the Bat Creek Stone, right? I don't know if you can see it. So that's the Bat Creek Stone found in Tennessee. You understand? How did it get to Tennessee? You understand? That's the Bat Creek Stone. What's another one? The Los Lunas Stone. The Los Lunas Stone in Mexico. Found in Mexico, and it's the Ten Commandments scribed on a rock. And they want to say that this is also fake. One second. You might not be able to see this because it's kind of damaged already, but it's a stone and it has ancient Hebrew on it. And it's the Ten Commandments. And as you can see, we can recognize the characters. Some of them are ancient Hebrew or in the Assyrian, right? Show you one more. I forget the name of these. Bat Creek Stone, Los Luna Stone, Keystone, right? Keystone. The keystones were found I believe it was either the keystone. I think it was the keystone that was found in the grave of a Native American. So it was a Native American was buried, and under where his body was this stone with ancient Hebrew on it. Which, of course, you would say, well, why was it found under the body of a buried Indian? And on this stone, it's written Hebrew, but in Assyrian. You understand? So here it is. Just let me turn on the laptop so I can make sure you can see it. So that's it right there, right? Of course, that's Assyrian, but you can translate it to ancient Hebrew. All right, so it says the Lord's name. I don't know if you can see it, but this part here, the part towards the end that actually says Yahweh, or as Christians would say, Jehovah. You understand? The last part there. You got the Yah, Ha-Wah, and the Ha again. You understand? So these are artifacts that you can look into. There's videos on them. You can read about them. Really interesting. Okay, so the ancient Hebrew alphabet, right? You got the A, B, Aba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, ha, ta, za, kra, kwa, ra, sha, tha. Right, so something to point out, this character and this character sound similar, but of course, they're not the same character. They have different sounds. So this character is pronounced ka, ka, as if you want to spit something out of your throat. Ka. This character is ka, like cousin. The ka and cousin is how you say this character, the ka. All right. So that's the ancient Hebrew alphabet. All right. Give me 1 second. All right. So now the Syrian alphabet. I'm gonna hold on the Syrian alphabet. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the class short for today. But next Friday, we're gonna go over, Lord allow, we're gonna go over the characters in the alphabet. Okay, characters in the alphabet, where they come from, what how were they brought about into existence, and of course we're gonna go into Adam and Genesis, show you how Adam created the language, uh, and that'll go into how Adam received the law of the Most High. All right, our forefather Adam in the Bible, who we descend from, we'll go into that and combine that with how the characters in the ancient Hebrew alphabet were brought about and where they were inspired from actual objects. You understand? And then changed into characters. A character changed to a word. Words changed to a language. All right. So with that, that's the end of the Lashawan Qadash class for Friday. Make sure you guys share and like the classes, Baba Kusha, which means please in ancient Hebrew, Baba Kusha, and that you subscribe to our channel, ISUPK, uh, ISUPK West Coast, and also Hollywood Israelites on YouTube. All right. With that, Shalom Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai Barakathum. Shalom Yahweh Shamar Alatha. Alatham Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai to the brothers and to the sisters. The water.